Emma led a seemingly perfect life. As a devoted housewife, she was the picture of grace and dedication, managing her suburban home and caring for her husband, Peter, and their 2 young children. But beneath the surface of their pristine household, Emma carried a secret that would soon unravel her world. Peter worked long hours as an investment banker, often leaving Emma to navigate the silence of their sprawling home alone. Over time, the monotony and loneliness began to weigh heavily on her. It was during one of those quiet afternoons that she reconnected with Ryan, an old college flame, through social media. What began as casual chats soon turned into long, intimate phone calls. Emma felt alive in a way she hadn't for years. Ryan's words reignited a fire in her that had long been extinguished by routine. The two would talk for hours, sharing their dreams, frustrations, and hidden desires. Emma knew the affair was wrong, but the temptation was intoxicating. She couldn't resist the thrill of sneaking around, the adrenaline rush of hearing Ryan's voice when Peter wasn't home. They would exchange messages and pictures, their connection growing deeper with each passing day. Peter, however, began to sense that something was off. Emma was distracted, her phone always within arm's reach. She'd smile at messages and leave the room to take calls, her behavior a stark contrast to her usual attentiveness. One evening, while Emma was in the shower, Peter noticed her phone buzzing on the counter. The name Rachel appeared on the screen, accompanied by a text that read, "I can't stop thinking about last night." Suspicious, Peter unlocked the phone, a simple task since he knew Emma's passcode. What he discovered shattered him. The message history was filled with exchanges between Emma and Ryan, detailing their affair in explicit detail. Photos, voice messages, and plans for future rendezvous were all there, laid bare for him to see. Heart pounding, Peter waited for Emma to emerge. When she stepped into the living room, towel wrapped around her, she froze at the sight of her phone in his hand. His face was a mix of anger and hurt. "Who's Ryan?" he asked, his voice trembling. Emma's world came crashing down in that moment. She stammered, trying to find the words, but there was no escaping the truth. She confessed everything, tears streaming down her face, begging for forgiveness. Peter couldn't stay in the house that night. He packed a bag and left, leaving Emma to grapple with the consequences of her actions. The next days were filled with tense conversations, therapy sessions, and difficult choices about the future of their marriage. Though their bond was deeply fractured, Emma vowed to earn back Peter's trust. She ended all contact with Ryan and devoted herself to repairing her family. But the betrayal lingered, a painful reminder of how fragile love can be when trust is broken. And so, Emma learned the hard way that secrets, no matter how carefully hidden, always have a way of coming to light. Peter's departure left an empty void in the house, one that amplified Emma's guilt and regret. The once lively home now felt heavy with silence and unease. Their children, too young to understand the complexities of adult relationships, sensed the tension but didn't dare ask questions. Emma tried to hold herself together for their sake, but the weight of her mistake bore down on her relentlessly. Peter stayed with a close friend for a week, needing space to process what had happened. During that time, he sought advice from his best friend, Martin, who urged him to consider whether the love he had for Emma could withstand the betrayal. Martin, a divorcee himself, knew the pain of separation but also the possibility of redemption if both parties were willing to work for it. Emma, meanwhile, took steps to show Peter she was serious about making amends. She scheduled a session with a marriage counselor and left the details in a message for Peter. Her words were raw and vulnerable. Asterisk, "I can't undo what I've done, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make things right. Please, come with me to talk this through. If not for us, then for the kids." Asterisk, when Peter finally returned home, his demeanor was guarded. He agreed to attend counseling, but made it clear that forgiveness wasn't guaranteed. Emma understood. She didn't expect immediate absolution. She only hoped for the chance to prove she was capable of change. Their first counseling session was tense. Peter laid bare his feelings of betrayal, recounting how discovering Emma's messages had felt like a knife to the heart. Emma, through tears, explained how loneliness had driven her to seek solace in Ryan, though she admitted it was no excuse for her actions. The counselor encouraged them to focus on open communication and honesty. Peter admitted he had been so consumed by work that he'd overlooked Emma's emotional needs. Emma confessed her growing resentment and how she had failed to express her feelings constructively. Slowly, they began to uncover the cracks in their relationship that had gone unnoticed for years. But healing was not a straight path. Peter wrestled with the lingering images of the messages and the thought of Emma with Ryan. There were nights he couldn't bring himself to look at her without feeling a pang of anger. Emma, on the other hand, struggled with the fear that Peter might never fully trust her again. To rebuild their connection, they started small. Weekly date nights were reinstated, and they worked to rediscover the things that had drawn them together in the first place. Emma made a point of being transparent, sharing her thoughts and feelings openly. Peter, though hesitant, began to lower his walls and allowed himself to feel hope. Months passed, and though the scars of the affair remained, they began to fade. Their relationship grew stronger in some ways, forged in the fire of adversity. Peter's faith in Emma was cautiously returning, and Emma remained committed to showing him that she was worthy of his trust. The road ahead was long, and neither could predict where it would lead. But for the first time in a long while, they both felt a glimmer of possibility, that maybe, just maybe, they could build something new from the ashes of what had been lost. As Peter and Emma worked to rebuild their relationship, the process tested their patience, resilience, and love. Their marriage counselor encouraged them to revisit memories of when they first fell in love, to remind them both of why they chose each other in the first place. On one such assignment, they dug out old photo albums. Sitting side by side on the living room floor, flipping through pictures of their early days, they found themselves laughing at the silly, youthful versions of themselves. Emma pointed to a photo of Peter attempting to cook dinner on their third date, his apron covered in flour. "You were terrible in the kitchen," she teased, a genuine smile breaking across her face. "And you pretended it was edible," Peter replied, his tone softer than it had been in months. Moments like these, while small, became milestones. They weren't a cure-all, but they were reminders of the love that still lingered beneath the pain. Meanwhile, Emma took it upon herself to cut ties with her past mistakes completely. She changed her phone number and deleted her social media accounts to ensure Ryan could never contact her again. She also wrote a letter to Ryan, not to rekindle anything, but to formally end the chapter. In it, she expressed her regret for the harm their actions had caused and her intent to focus solely on repairing her marriage. She sent the letter and then deleted every trace of their communication from her devices. Peter noticed her efforts and, though he still struggled to trust fully, he appreciated her commitment. Slowly, he started to let Emma back into his heart. He returned to sleeping in their shared bedroom, though the intimacy they once had took longer to rekindle. Their children, sensing a change in the atmosphere, began to smile more often. Family dinners became lively again, with Peter and Emma making a conscious effort to create positive memories for their kids. They started planning small family outings, trips to the park, movie nights, and even a weekend camping trip. These moments helped Peter see that, despite everything, their family was worth fighting for. One evening, during their marriage counseling session, Peter surprised Emma. After weeks of grappling with his emotions, he finally said the words she had longed to hear. "I don't know if I can ever forget, but I'm ready to forgive. I love you, Emma, and I believe we can make this work." Emma broke into tears, overwhelmed by relief and gratitude. She promised to continue proving her dedication, not just with words but with actions. The months that followed were not without challenges. There were setbacks, arguments, and moments of doubt, but there were also victories. Nights of shared laughter, mornings of quiet companionship, and milestones in their healing journey. Peter and Emma knew their marriage would never be the same as it once was, but they began to see that it didn't have to be. Together, they were building something new, something stronger, more honest, and rooted in a deeper understanding of each other. The affair became a painful chapter in their story, but it didn't define them. It became a turning point, a moment when they chose to face their flaws, rebuild trust, and rediscover the love that had always been there, waiting to be nurtured again. As Peter and Emma moved forward, they realized that rebuilding trust required ongoing effort, not just fleeting gestures. They both committed to continuing therapy individually, as well as together. Emma used her sessions to unpack the reasons behind her choices, exploring the loneliness and insecurities that had fueled her actions. Peter, in turn, worked through his feelings of betrayal, anger, and grief over what they had lost. They also started a new ritual, weekly truth talks. Every Friday evening, after the kids were asleep, they would sit down with no distractions, no phones, no television, and share their thoughts and feelings from the week. It was an open space for vulnerability, without judgment or blame. At first, the conversations were difficult and awkward, but over time, they became a cornerstone of their rebuilding process, allowing them to reconnect on a deeper level. One evening during a truth talk, Peter admitted something that had been weighing on him. "I'm scared, Emma. Scared that this will happen again. Scared that I'll never stop thinking about it." Emma reached out and took his hand, her eyes brimming with sincerity. "I understand," she said, "and I'm scared too, that I'll never fully earn back your trust. But I'm here, Peter. I'm not running away from this from us. I'm going to keep showing you every day that I'm committed to you and our family." It wasn't a magical fix, but it was honest. And in that moment, they felt a flicker of hope. As time went on, they began to notice the subtle ways their relationship was transforming. Peter became more present at home, consciously setting boundaries at work so he could spend evenings with his family. Emma, in turn, embraced the opportunity to rediscover herself outside of her role as a wife and mother. She started taking art classes, something she'd always wanted to do but never made time for. Peter encouraged her, even framing one of her first paintings and hanging it in the living room. The kids, too, began to feel the change. They noticed their parents laughing more, working together as a team, and being genuinely happy in each other's company. On a particularly sunny Saturday, they all piled into the car for a day at the beach. As Peter and Emma watched their children build sandcastles, their hands found each other's. It was a small gesture, but it carried the weight of everything they had endured and overcome. Months turned into a year, and the wounds that had once felt raw and insurmountable began to heal. While the affair was never forgotten, it no longer defined their relationship. Instead, it became a symbol of resilience, a reminder of how they had faced their darkest moment and emerged stronger together. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Peter turned to Emma and smiled. "I never thought I'd say this," he began, "but I think we're better now than we ever were before." Emma's eyes filled with tears, but this time, they were tears of gratitude. "I think so too," she said softly. In that moment, they realized that love wasn't about perfection. It was about choosing each other every day, even when it was hard, even when it seemed impossible. Together, they had rewritten their story, turning a tale of betrayal into one of redemption and unwavering commitment.